The Velvet Drift Saloon was the quietest place in the known galaxy. It sat in the heart of Orbital Haven 7, a massive space station that floated between 3 solar systems. For 300 years, beings from dozens of worlds had come here to trade, rest, and drink strange liquids in complete silence. The saloon's owner was a named Bounded Whisper. She had 4 arms and skin like polished wood. Her voice sounded like dry leaves moving in wind. She took great pride in her establishment. No loud noises, no sudden movements, just peace. The regular customers liked it this way. There were insect-like creatures with long antennae that could hear the smallest sound from far away. Loud noises caused them terrible pain. They came to the Velvet Drift because it was safe and quiet. There were giants made of living stone. They moved slowly and spoke rarely. They had existed for thousands of years and found comfort in stillness. There were clouds of colorful gas that lived inside glass spheres. They floated silently and communicated through changing colors. On this particular day, the saloon was half full. A merchant sat in one corner, slowly drinking something blue. 2 occupied a reinforced booth, their stone bodies creaking slightly as they shifted. Several bobbed near the ceiling, their spheres bumping gently against each other. Then the airlock opened. 7 humans walked in. Captain was first. He was a man of medium height with kind eyes and a calm face. He wore the simple uniform of a cargo freighter captain. Behind him came his crew. His co-pilot had sharp features and carried a worn leather case over her shoulder. The engineer was big and friendly-looking with a small device clipped to his belt. The communications officer was young and had a habit of moving her lips like she was always singing something inside her head. The rest followed close behind, was barely 20 years old, working as cargo handler. He looked around with wide, curious eyes. The medic was quiet and watchful, who handled navigation, walked with the confidence of someone who always knew exactly where she was. Bounded Whisper extended one of her 4 arms in greeting. The other 3 continued polishing glasses. She studied these new visitors. Humans were rare at Orbital Haven 7. They had only joined Galactic Society 40 years ago. Most species did not know much about them yet. "Welcome to the Velvet Drift," Bounded Whisper said in her rustling voice. "We pride ourselves on tranquility here. You will find it very peaceful." Smiled politely. "Thank you. We just need a place to rest while our ship gets repairs. We won't cause any trouble." He led his crew to a large booth in the corner. The other patrons watched them pass. The merchants' antennae twitched with mild interest. They turned their massive heads slowly, like mountains considering whether to notice an ant. The humans sat down. A server came and took their orders. Soon, glasses filled with drinks of various colors sat before them. They sipped quietly. They spoke in whispers. They tried very hard to fit in. But something was different about humans, something that was difficult to hide. His fingers began tapping against the table. It was a soft sound, barely there. Tap, 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 tap. She did not even realize she was doing it. It was just something her body did when her mind wandered. His foot started bouncing under the table. His heel hit the floor in a steady rhythm. Thump, thump, thump. He was thinking about the engine repairs they needed, and his body kept time with his thoughts. Even, who sat perfectly still, traced invisible patterns on the table surface. Her finger moved in circles and lines that followed some music only she could hear. The merchant noticed. Its antennae turned toward the humans like flowers turning toward sun. It had never seen beings move in such strange patterns before. The movement seemed purposeless, yet somehow organized. Bounded Whisper noticed too. She had served thousands of species over the centuries. She knew the habits of each one, but humans were new to her. They seemed unable to be completely still. Some part of them was always moving, always making tiny sounds. Saw his crew struggling with the silence, he understood. Humans were not built for absolute quiet. Their hearts beat in rhythm. Their breath came and went like waves on a shore. Their very blood pumped in patterns. Stillness was not natural to them. "Try to relax," he whispered to his crew. "We only need to stay a few hours." But hours felt very long in the Velvet Drift saloon. The silence pressed against them like deep water, bit her lip to stop herself from humming, gripped his drink with both hands to keep them still. Even, who rarely spoke anyway, felt the unnatural quiet like a weight on his chest. The alien patrons continued watching. They had never seen beings so uncomfortable with peace. It was strange. It was curious. It was almost entertaining. None of them knew what was coming. None of them understood that these 7 humans carried something inside them that would change everything. It was not a weapon. It was not technology. It was not even a conscious choice. It was simply part of being human. And soon, very soon, it would escape. The Velvet Drift Saloon had been quiet for 300 years. Its peace had seemed eternal and unbreakable. But eternity was about to meet its match in the most unlikely enemy. 7 humans who could not sit still. The accident happened 2 hours after the humans arrived. Was the youngest member of the crew. He was nervous in new places and clumsy when he felt people watching him. The alien eyes on him made his hands shake. When he reached for his drink, his elbow knocked his empty metal cup off the table. The cup hit the floor with a loud clang. The sound rang through the saloon like a bell. Every head turned, every antenna pointed, every eye focused on the young human who stood frozen with horror on his face. "Sorry," whispered, his face turned red. "I am so sorry." He bent down quickly to pick up the cup. His hands were still shaking. As he lifted it, his fingers drummed nervously against the metal surface. Tap, tap. Tap, 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 tap. He did not mean to do it. It was just a nervous habit, something he had done since childhood. But the merchant leaned forward. Its antennae vibrated in a way they never had before. The tapping was not random. There was a pattern, a structure, something that repeated and changed and repeated again. Recognized the rhythm immediately. It was an old song from Earth, something every human knew. Without thinking, he joined in. His knuckles rapped against the wooden table. Knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. His beat matched perfectly. Then added a soft whistle. A simple melody that floated above the rhythm like a bird over waves. The sounds wove together. They became something that did not exist anywhere else in the galaxy. They became organized noise that moved and breathed and made patterns in the air. Knew he should stop them. They were guests here. They should respect local customs. But he looked at the alien faces around the room and saw something strange. Not anger, not irritation, something else, something like wonder. Yet the bar turned its massive stone head very slowly. It had lived for 500 years. It had seen stars born and die. It had never heard anything like this. Began humming a low note that supported the melody, joined with a harmony that made the simple tune suddenly rich and full. Watched her for a long moment. Then she reached for the leather case she had carried from the ship. She had not opened it in years. Some memories were too painful. But now, in this strange alien saloon, surrounded by beings who had never heard such sounds, it felt right. She unzipped the case. Inside was a guitar. The instrument was old. Its wood was scratched and worn. Its strings had been replaced many times. It had belonged to her father and to his father before him. It had traveled from Earth to Mars to the asteroid belt to the edges of known space. Lifted it carefully, she placed her fingers on the strings, and she played a chord. The sound filled the saloon, warm and round and full of something that had no name in any alien language. It was beautiful. It was strange. It was entirely foreign to every non-human ear present. The Velvet Drift Saloon fell into a different kind of silence, not the peaceful quiet of before. This was the silence of held breath, the silence of waiting. Bounded Whisper stood behind her bar with all 4 hands frozen. In 3 centuries, She had never heard such a thing. She did not know if she should be angry or afraid or amazed. The merchant rose from its seat. It moved closer to the humans, drawn by something it could not explain. Its antennae waved slowly, drinking in every vibration. A young, barely 100 years old, felt the sound move through the floor and into its stone body. It discovered that vibration could be pleasant. It had never known this before. The near the ceiling began pulsing with colors. Their gaseous bodies responded to the rhythm without their control. Blue and gold and pink flashed through them like lightning. Watched all of this. He saw how the aliens looked at his crew. He saw their confusion transforming into curiosity. He understood that something important was happening. "Keep playing," he said quietly too. She nodded and began a new song, something slow and gentle, something that felt like sunrise over calm water. Sang words that meant nothing to alien ears, but the feeling behind them needed no translation. The melody spoke of longing and hope and the long journey between stars. One by one, the aliens moved closer. They gathered around the human table like creatures warming themselves at a fire they had never seen before. Bounded Whisper found herself swaying slightly. She stopped herself, shocked. She had never swayed in her life. But then she started again, because she could not help it, because the sound made her body want to move. And for the first time in 300 years, the Velvet Drift Saloon was not quiet. It was full of music. News traveled fast through Orbital Haven 7. Within hours, everyone on the station had heard about the humans who made organized sound. They called it music. They said it was art made from noise. They claimed it could make you feel things without words. Most aliens found this hard to believe. Species across the galaxy communicated through exact language, chemical signals, or patterns of light. The idea of artistic noise seemed either very primitive or very strange. Perhaps both. But curiosity was powerful. That night, the Velvet Drift Saloon filled with more customers than it had seen in decades. Beings of all shapes and sizes crowded through the door. They pushed against walls. They climbed over each other. They all wanted to see the humans who made sound. Bounded Whisper saw opportunity. She cleared the center of the saloon to create an open space. Then she looked at and gestured with all 4 arms toward the empty floor. The 7 humans stood together. They looked at each other with nervous eyes. They had never performed for anyone except themselves. Now they had to represent their entire species. "No pressure," whispered with a shaky smile. They had few instruments, just guitar and their own voices and bodies, but remembered songs his grandmother used to sing in the farming domes of Mars Colony. Knew every popular song that had ever played on Solar Network radio. Had spent his childhood beating rhythms on shipping containers in cargo bays. They decided to start simple. Played a slow melody on her guitar. The notes hung in the air like stars in the darkness. Then began to sing. His voice was deep and warm. The words were in an old Earth language that even some humans had forgotten, but the feeling behind them was clear: loneliness, longing, the vast empty spaces between worlds. Joined her voice to his. She sang higher, weaving around his melody like wind around a mountain. Their voices fit together in ways that made the aliens lean forward with fascination. Then and began building rhythm. They slapped their hands on tables. They stomped their feet on the floor. The beat started simple but grew more complex. Boom, boom, clap. Boom, boom, clap. The sound became a heartbeat that filled the whole room. Added his voice to the harmony. He rarely spoke, but when he sang, something powerful came out of him. Completed the sound, her voice finding spaces between the others that no one knew existed. The first song ended. The aliens stared in silence. Then a sound began that humans had never heard before. The clicked their mandibles together. The struck their stone palms against the floor. The flashed bright colors. It was applause in 100 different forms. The humans played another song, and another, and another. The merchant from before started swaying. Its long body moved back and forth to the rhythm. It had never done such a thing before. Its species valued stillness and precise movement, but now it could not stop itself. A young in the corner discovered something amazing. The vibrations from the music traveled through the floor and into its stone body. It felt pleasant, more than pleasant. It felt wonderful. They began to sway too, its massive form rocking like a mountain in an earthquake. They lost control completely. Their gaseous bodies pulsed with colors that matched the rhythm: blue for the slow parts, gold for the high notes, pink and purple when the harmony swelled. They had never experienced anything like it. By the fifth song, half the room was moving in some way. Bodies swayed, heads nodded, appendages tapped against surfaces. By the seventh song, aliens began making their own sounds. A server found empty metal containers and began beating them like drums. A discovered that its antennae could create a high whistling tone. A learned that striking its stone chest made a deep booming sound. The music spread like fire. It jumped from human to alien and back again. Species that had sat in silence for centuries suddenly wanted to make noise. They wanted to join the sound. They wanted to be part of something bigger than themselves. Bounded Whisper stood behind her bar and watched her quiet saloon transform. 300 years of silence ended in a single night. She did not know if she should be angry or grateful. She decided on grateful. Because she was swaying too, all four of her arms moved to the rhythm, and for the first time in her long life, she felt something she could not name. Later, she would learn that humans called it joy. 3 weeks passed. Orbital Haven 7 was no longer the same place. The Velvet Drift Saloon now held live performances every night. Beings from across the station came to listen, to watch, and to participate. Alien musicians, a concept that had not existed before, experimented with sound. They discovered new ways to make noise and new reasons to make it. A composer found that vibrating its antennae at different speeds created melodies that no other species could hear without special equipment. But when those sounds were made louder, they were hauntingly beautiful. A sculptor learned that its stone body was like an instrument. Different parts made different tones when struck. It created the first symphony by having others hit it in careful patterns. They developed something entirely new. They called it color music. Groups of them would pulse their gaseous bodies in rhythm with sound, creating light shows that matched every note. It was music you could see as well as hear. The crew had planned to stay for 3 days while their ship was repaired. 3 weeks later, they were still on the station. They had become teachers, helping aliens understand rhythm and melody. They had become collaborators, working with species to create sounds never heard before. They had become, without meaning to, ambassadors for all of humanity. But change always brings resistance. Not everyone on Orbital Haven 7 was happy about what was happening. The old ways had served many species well. Silence meant peace. Order meant safety. This new chaos of sound and movement worried those who valued tradition. Bounded Whisper received formal complaints every day. Elders said their young were wasting time on useless noise instead of studying trade. Philosophers argued that embracing sound contradicted their ancient beliefs in permanence and stone. Even some expressed concern that their uncontrollable color pulses made them look foolish. Then the delegation arrived. 12 representatives walked into the Velvet Drift Saloon one evening. They came from the most powerful species on the station. They wore formal garments and carried themselves with great importance. Their faces showed no joy, only cold determination. The music stopped when they entered. An ancient stepped forward. Its antennae were gray with age and rigid with authority. This was Keeper of Records, one of the most respected beings on the station. It had lived for 400 years and remembered when Orbital Haven 7 was just a small trading post. "Humans," Keeper of Records said. Its voice was cold and sharp. "You have been here less than one cycle of our smallest moon. In that time you have disrupted centuries of tradition. You have introduced chaos into our ordered society. You have contaminated our culture with your primitive noise." Stood slowly. His crew rose with him. They faced the delegation with calm faces, though their hearts beat fast. "What would you have us do?" asked quietly. "Stop," the ancient commanded. "Stop your music, stop your teaching, stop your performances, return order to this station." A elder stepped forward. Its stone face showed no expression. "We have lived in silence for 10,000 years. Silence is sacred to us. Your vibrations disturb our meditations and corrupt our young." One by one, the representatives spoke. Each had complaints. Each demanded that the humans stop what they were doing. When they finished, silence filled the saloon again. All eyes turned to. He took a deep breath. He thought about everything that had happened in the past 3 weeks. He thought about the young who had cried tears of joy hearing music for the first time. He thought about the child who had danced, something had never done before. He thought about the who had created beauty that brought beings to tears. "We did not force anyone to listen," he said finally. "We did not demand that anyone participate. We simply shared something that belongs to us. Every being on this station came to our music by choice. Every alien who learned to make sound did so because they wanted to." Stepped beside her captain. She held her guitar like a shield. "You speak of contamination, but is it contamination when someone discovers something new about themselves? Is it wrong to feel joy?" Keeper of Records clicked its mandibles angrily. "You do not understand what you disrupt. Our ways have kept peace for centuries." "Peace is not the same as silence," said. She lifted her guitar and played a single note. Let it ring through the saloon. Let it fade into quiet. "That sound," she said softly, "did not destroy your silence. It gave it meaning. It showed you what silence actually is. Without sound, how can you know the value of quiet?" The delegation stood motionless. Keeper of Records' antennae twitched in ways that suggested thinking. But the ancient's face remained hard. "This is not over," it said. "We will bring this matter before the station council. Let all species vote on whether your noise has a place among us." The delegation turned and left. The saloon remained silent long after they were gone. Looked at his crew. He saw worry in their eyes. He felt it in his own heart. "What do we do now?" asked. "We wait," said, "and we hope." The station council met in the great hall at the center of Orbital Haven 7. It was a massive room where decisions had been made for 3 centuries. Representatives from every species sat in curved rows that faced a central platform. Light from distant stars streamed through crystal windows. The matter before them was simple. Should human musical practices be restricted on the station? Should the noise be stopped? Keeper of Records spoke first. The ancient stood tall and spoke with the weight of 400 years. "Our traditions have kept order for generations. Our silence has brought peace. These humans arrived with their chaos and disrupted everything we have built. I ask this council to protect our way of life. I ask you to vote yes on restricting their activities." Several council members nodded in agreement. Change was frightening. The old ways felt safe. Then something unexpected happened. A young stood up in the audience section. She was a server from the Velvet Drift Saloon. Her name was Gentileco, and she had never spoken at a council meeting before. "May I address the council?" she asked. The council leader, an elderly, pulsed with soft colors. "You may speak." Gentileco walked to the center platform. Her 4 arms trembled with nervousness. 3 weeks ago, I had never heard music. I did not know such a thing existed. I served drinks in silence and went home to silence and lived my whole life in silence. I thought this was normal. I thought this was all there was. She paused, took a breath. Then the humans came, and they made sound, and something inside me woke up, something I did not know was sleeping. She looked at the council members with tears in 2 of her 6 eyes. I am not a maker of music yet, but I am learning, and learning has made me happy in a way I never was before. Is that so wrong? Is joy something that should be restricted? Before the council could respond, another voice spoke up. Stood slowly in the back. Its stone body groaned with the movement. I am called Mountain That Watches. I have lived for 600 years. I came here to demand the humans be silenced. I believed they were corrupting our young and destroying our peace. The council waited. But then I listened, Mountain That Watches continued. Really listened, and I felt something I have not felt in centuries. I felt alive. More beings stood up. One by one they shared their stories. An engineer explained how music helped her concentrate during difficult repairs. A collective described the color symphony they had created together. A young spoke about dancing for the first time and how it had changed his understanding of his own body. The council received hundreds of messages from across the station. Beings of all species wrote about how music had touched them, how it had brought them together, how it had given them something they did not know they were missing. Keeper of Records sat through all of this in silence. Its ancient antennae drooped lower and lower as the testimonials continued. When the vote came, the restriction failed, not because humans had powerful friends, not because of politics or deals. It failed because too many beings had been changed by music. Too many had found something they did not want to lose. After the council ended, Keeper of Records approached. The ancient moved slowly, like a creature carrying great weight. In 400 years, it said, I have never felt curiosity. My species values predictability. We find comfort in knowing what will happen next. But when I heard your instruments, something stirred inside me, something long dormant. Listened respectfully. I do not know if I welcome this feeling, Keeper of Records admitted, but I recognize its importance. You have given us something we did not know we wanted. Perhaps that is the greatest gift of all. 6 months later, Orbital Haven 7 hosted the first music festival. 32 species participated. Each brought sounds that no human had ever heard before. Antenna symphonies filled the air with whistling melodies. Percussion rumbled through the station like gentle earthquakes. Light operas dazzled the eyes while touching the heart. Four-handed drum circles created rhythms that made everyone want to move. Crew performed the opening number. They played the same simple song they had played that first night in the Velvet Drift Saloon, the same song that had started everything. It was not a perfect performance, still got nervous, still smiled too much. The guitar was still old and scratched. But it was human, and that was enough. When they finished, silence fell over the festival hall, but it was not the empty silence that had once filled Orbital Haven 7. This was a silence full of feeling, a silence that held all the music that had come before and all the music that would come after. Then the applause began. Clicks and stomps and color flashes and humming and whistling and 100 other sounds that meant the same thing in every language. Thank you. Looked at his crew. He looked at the thousands of aliens who had gathered to celebrate sound. He thought about how they had come here just for fuel and repairs, how they had stayed to change a galaxy. Caught his eye and smiled. Not bad, she said, for a bunch of humans who could not sit still. Laughed, and all around them the music continued. It would never stop again.